Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers, a very special edition of the mailbag. We're taking the mailbag from Monday into overtime because we got so many questions that I wanted to make sure we got to them all. And I don't like leaving you without content. Thursday and Friday are our off days with Saturday, Sunday games this week. 2 days without a show, that's too much. So we're going to get to drop this for you, a little bit of an overtime mailbag, if you will. So let's pick up right where Kelly and I left off on Monday. We have a question. I believe this came out of the Die Hard Discord as well, from Assassin2107. What do you want to see out of Cam York this year? If it's more offense, then is there a certain amount of points or something you'd like to see? Yeah, I think the number one thing from York is more offense. He has the 2 goals already, and they've been nice. They've been a couple of snipes, quite honestly. On Tuesday's pregame, I talked about the ways the Flyers had scored, and not a ton of traffic, not a ton of greasy goals. And it's hard to beat goaltenders clean. But Cam York has done it twice in the first 5 games already. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. And with that comes hopefully some power play time for York. He had a lot of success prior to his pro career playing power play time. Would love to see a little bit more of that. Hopefully one day replace Igor Zamula. I love it was a nice story last year, Zamula, and he had that little run where he's putting up some points and the power play actually looked somewhat effective. And they need Jamie Drysdale to kind of take a hold of that first power play unit. They need Drysdale to be something, and on that power play is maybe where they can use some of his skill set the best. But hopefully York can maybe move into that power play 2 role, and then I think 40 points is always the bar. And he's moving towards that. If you look at the progression of his career, 10 points, 20 points, last year 30 points, you're hoping he can take that next step. And with some power play time and with what appears to be at least a functional power play, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I thought he took big steps last year, playing the big minutes, looked better defensively than he had in previous years. But if he's a true top pair defenseman, you need to see some offense. You need to see some points. I thought he deferred too much to Travis Sanheim in that regard last year, where it was Sanheim was the more aggressive one and York kind of stayed back. I would like to see York maybe put the pedal to the metal a little bit more, but good start for him. Just want to see him continue to build and really take a hold of that number 1 or at least top pair defensive spot, because along with center, that is something they are certainly missing. So thank you for the question, Assassin. Those were, we tackled the Die Hard questions on Monday's show. That was the last one of that round. Now we go to some questions from Twitter and social media. We kick it off with Sean Meese or Sean Miss. Do you think the way Coots is being treated is an under-the-radar reason why the Flyers are struggling? If you look back at the end of last season, their collapse seems to coincide with when Coots was demoted. Seems like he's lost the room. I guess he being John Tortorella. Listen, there's always a possibility with any coach, and we've seen it so many times here in Philadelphia, where a few decisions in a row just kind of leads to the team being done with the coach, not wanting to leave it all out there for the coach. And I don't think we've seen that, the way the team has fought back in some third periods, even in that one Fedorov game when it was like, geez, this thing's a disaster. And then they come in with Ayerson and suddenly you see life again. They've battled throughout games. I don't know if they're done with the coach. And listen, Coots is longest tenured player on the team. They named him captain last year. Very well respected, certainly in that room. Here's the thing about the way he's quote unquote being treated though. Sean Couturier, prior to the game on Tuesday night, the first of the home and home with the Capitals, he's on a 30-game drought. He has not scored in 30 games going back to last year. He has 1 goal in his last 42 games. The main reason for Sean Couturier's demotion is the way Sean Couturier has been playing. Now, we can say, listen, he keeps coming back from back surgery. They overused him. Then he had the core muscle injury. Now he's coming back from surgery. It's the beginning of the season. You got to see him get warmed up. All of that is valid, certainly. But everybody scores once every 30 games, right? Like, everyone in the league has a goal every 30 games. Nobody has 2 goals a season. That's like Nick Delorier had 1 last year. You know, that's basically it. If you are a player who belongs in the top 9, you score more than once every 30 games. I don't care what your usage is, what your deployment is. Someone takes a point shot that bounces off your cup and goes into the net. You get credit for that goal. That has not happened for Sean Couturier in 30 consecutive games. He needs to be better. I think he has shown signs in the second week of the season that he's had a little bit more jump. He's on the second power play unit as of at least the 2 games against the Capitals. That's what it looked like at practice anyway, was Coots was going to get those opportunities. But he needs to play better. That's what it comes down to. The coach might have an issue with he's just not fast enough, Sean Couturier, and we clearly know that Torts wants his centers, especially, to be fast, and playing him on 4th line left wing is maybe a little bit disrespectful, but you come up with lines that make sense. We did this exercise, Kelly and I, on Monday's show. I've talked about it with Charlie. Come up with 4 lines that absolutely make sense. Tell me who fits with Sean Couturier right now, because I can't come up with it. He's kind of the piece that I'm like, I don't know what I'd do either. I don't think there's an easy answer. I don't think there's 4 sets of 3 forwards with Sean Couturier included that you're like, all 4 of these make sense. That's where I'm at with Coots now. He needs to play better. I don't really know where he fits right now. I don't think that's the reason they've struggled. I think the reason they've struggled is they just aren't executing. Like, no one isn't completing passes or messing up their D-zone coverage. Like, no one's doing that to spite John Tortorella. If so, they don't belong in the NHL. I just think they got to tighten some things up, as we talked about. All right, so that was Sean Meese's question. Thank you for that. Let's go to GDodd12. When do we start to worry that the defense is actually worse than we thought and needs more help than previously thought? I wouldn't say I'm there, but there is like a little bit of retroactive confirmation bias going on. Now we're going to see with hopefully Tuesday night and Wednesday, both of those games, the return of Nick Seeler. And I have started calling him Nicky Norris because it's like, oh, well, now our defensive problems are taken care of. We have the best player in the league, Nick Seeler, back. But at least that will normalize the pairs. Eric Johnson will go to the press box. He will be the 7th extra defenseman. And then we can get back to York Sanheim, which was effective for most of last season. We have Seeler Drysdale, which is the Seeler Walker replacement, which was an incredibly effective pair last year, and hopefully Drysdale can pick up where Walker left off and Seeler can be what he was last season. And then Zamula Ristolainen, which has had its ups and downs, let's say, to start this season. But I was just never terribly impressed with the names on this defense. There's some players I like. We just talked about Cam York, and Sanheim's probably a really good second pair guy, and Seeler was good last year. He's really come a long way in the last few seasons. We see something in Drysdale. Risto has improved from when they acquired him. Zamula is what he is. I don't think anyone's in love with Igor Zamula, but he's a bottom pair defenseman. I think I'm kind of already there, but I always felt that this defense would need revamping in terms of, well, when we expect them to be good, how many of these guys are here? And it's like 3. Like York on the top pair, Sanheim on the second pair. Maybe he's paired. Maybe he's back on the left and Drysdale's on the right on that second pair. Maybe Drysdale is more of a power play third pair guy. I don't know. But, like, I just never expected a majority of these guys that they have lined up over the last 2 seasons to be here when the team is good. So I'm kind of already there thinking they need to focus on some defense in some coming drafts. And with 6 picks in what could be like the top 40 picks next season, or, this coming draft in July, maybe 3 or 4 of them are defensemen. That's kind of my guess right now. Let's go to Dylan Robillard. I really wanted to answer this question because it cracked me up. You probably said this previously, but what's the reason Chuck calls you Will/William? I actually didn't realize that this wasn't something everyone knew. And this is not the first time this has been an issue for me. I was telling a story a couple of days ago to Kelly and Bryn about I used to work at the Borgata in AC. I used to be the remote producer for Saturday morning WIP shows there. So Friday night, I would usually stay over at the Borgata because I had to be there at like 5 a.m. So I would just stay. And whoever at my old employer would book the room under the name Bill Matz. Well, you check in with, your ID, your credit card. All those things have your legal name on them, which is William. Basically, everyone you've ever met named Bill, their real name is William. It's a German thing. I don't know why, but that's just what it is. But I would try to check into the hotel, and without fail, every week, they'd be like, well, is Bill joining you? Who is Bill if you're William? And it would take me a half hour to check in to the Borgata probably 4 out of every 5 times because of this. So I didn't realize that everyone wasn't privy to this information. But I guess if you don't know any Bills personally, you wouldn't. But Dylan, to answer your question, everyone you've ever met named Bill, their real name is William. I didn't realize that not everyone knew that, but it has come up before. So I thought that was a funny question. Thank you, Dylan. All right, let's go to GD Yake. That name just makes me laugh. What did you think of the Vince McMahon documentary? Most people by now with any interest have seen Mr. McMahon on Netflix. I will say it was entertaining. It was, 6 hours of good stuff. If you're like a casual fan or have very little exposure to like Vince McMahon and the WWE, you probably really enjoyed it. We're like, oh my God, I had no idea. Gee, what the hell's going on? What is wrestling? These people are ridiculous. And that is 100% true. If you are a dedicated, like say maybe you own wrestling shirts that you wear all the time, you're like, oh man, they didn't even scratch the surface with how effed up this dude is. Like it's a good almost like it's 6 hours, which is insane. But it's a good introduction, but it's not even. I think it's more for people who maybe aren't as into all the details of wrestling that maybe I am. But it's good. It's entertaining stuff, and you learn how screwed up that business is and how bad of a guy Vince McMahon is, but probably not even scratching the surface. You would need a 5-season full series of a show to really cover all the in-depth insanity that is the World Wrestling Federation that I've known. All right, let's get back to some hockey here. Hal Albergo. Is Fedotov this team's version of Taijuan Walker? I did like this question. Except that's not sustainable for someone expected to play about 33% of the games. If his performance does not improve, how long until they give Kolosov a shot? For people, we get a lot of out-of-town fans and like non-baseball fans and stuff. So Taijuan Walker was the Phillies' 5th starter this year, and he sucked. Like, was just horrendous. But for the most part, when he was healthy, they just threw him out there every 5 days, and we're like, screw it. Our other 4 starters are awesome. We'll just basically have scheduled losses, 1 out of every 4. And you look at Fedotov's contract and the role he's supposed to have this year, and you can make that comparison. Like, well, 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 games. Don't know what to tell you. We're going to have a crappy goalie. And we talked about this a little the other day. I think that would have been a fine plan. And listen, they do need more high-end talent, and a bad goalie is the best way to stealth tank. But with the Kolosov situation, and we really don't know all the details or how that's going to resolve itself, you wonder if they can keep going. My guess is at some point Kolosov gets an opportunity. They have, back-to-backs after you've seen this with 2 against Washington, home and home. So tomorrow and Sunday, they have back-to-backs again. The schedule is weird and condensed in the first part of this year with that Four Nations face-off thing. There's some back-to-backs. There's some opportunities. I think the Flyers are going to end up carrying 3 goalies at some point. I don't know how long that lasts. I don't know how many games Kolosov or Fedorov actually play. But my guess is we see 3 goalies on this roster sometime soon. All right. Let's go to Eddie Revox. Torts made an interesting comment in an interview the other day about Rocky Thompson giving him crap for juggling power play lines so much, and that he was trying to keep them the same. With as many young players as we have in our system, do you agree with my feeling that his frequent line juggling needs to stop to allow the boys to work out some natural chemistry? Yeah, we talked about this in the post-game JP and I did. What was that, Monday or Saturday maybe? Yeah, last Saturday. The team is really undisciplined right now, whether it's taking penalties, the defensive zone coverage, just little stuff that needs to be, again, tightened. Along with that, I think the coach needs to be more disciplined and just not say after one bad period every game we need to totally change these lines, and just let some sort of chemistry, figure one line out. Figure out one line that needs to stay the same, and then work your magic with the other ones till you eventually come across. Again, I can't come up with like 4 lines that really make sense. Maybe they will show themselves. We're only 5 games in at this point. 7 when you're watching this. But I'm just going to keep pointing it out so that people can't show me a clip and be like, this guy doesn't even know how many games they've played. I do. It's just, this is how the entertainment business works. But like, I can't come up with 4 lines that make sense. They need to figure out one. Just stick with one, and then maybe from there you'll be able to come up with 2, and you can get by screwing around with like your other 2 lines then. That's what needs to happen, but Torts needs to allow it to happen. He hasn't to this point. All right, Flyers fan 39. Are you as deflated as I am by the start of the season? It seems like way too many players need to step up and soon. Otherwise, the season could get away from us early with lots of goodwill lost. Let's hope this is the kind of adversity, and we start clicking by game 10. Yeah, that's the goodwill part of it. Yeah, that's rough. Because I talked about this with Kelly the other day. Like, it seems over the last several years, every time there's been a reason to maybe be excited about this team, then there's a spotlight on them, and they do not deliver. They just really, really play poorly, as they did, like, you know, in the home opener, the debut of Michkov and Luchenko in front of the home crowd. They get shut out in what was not an exciting game. I think the goodwill part of it, yeah, that's deflating because you really want to see the Flyers start to be relevant again. I know, as you know, Flyers fans, we don't want to be the stepchild. We don't want to be like, oh yeah, remember that? There's a hockey team in town, yeah, and it's like a joke, you know. But in terms of the actual season, it's 5 games. The team just needs some, I think, time to get better. I said I am going to retroactively give them a pass if over the next couple of weeks we start to see them look more like the team that played through February last season. You know, I want to see more of that. And then I will be able to go, man, the travel and starting out on the West Coast and being so young and integrating all these new guys, that resulted in why they were bad the first 5 games. But they need to get it together in order to earn that retroactive pass from me. So hopefully that starts with the Washington back-to-backs. All right, let's go to Lance Cote. I wonder if they're related to Riley. Thinking about the Couturier situation that you touched on the other day, you're probably right about Torts trying to push him out, not unlike Kevin Hayes. But in this case, do you think Torts, he found his Coots replacement in Luchenko? I think he sees a lot of the things we've always liked about Couturier in Luchenko, the responsibility and maturity in his game. Plus, he loves the speed. The one thing is, Torts has never had that Sean Couturier that we all like, oh, yeah, this is maybe in our minds the Coots replacement. Like, okay, maybe he's never an elite offensive player, but his two-way play means if he's at least a good offensive player, then he absolutely belongs in your top six. John Tortorella never had that Sean Couturier. The first year Torts was here, Coots wasn't. And then last season, Coots started out pretty well and then fell off. And now Coots is, he started the home opener on the fourth line left wing. Like, who knows? He's worked his way. It looks like he's back at center. It looks like, at least for now, we'll see what the lineups are over the next few games. But in terms of a Couturier replacement, I think he has a guy in Luchenko who he thinks one day will be what we liked about Coots. But I don't know if he looks at him as a Couturier replacement because he's never had that Couturier. That's just that part of it. All right. Thank you for that question, Lance. Let's hit the heavy edit pod. They often chime in on these mailbags. Who is a legitimate coaching option post-Torts? We touched on this, I think, a little with Kelly the other day as well. Like, realistic, I think Mike Sullivan will be available, like maybe after this season. And then that kind of makes some sense. I wonder if it was always going to be Ian LaPerriere, But LaPerriere, I do think, falls into that same category that we talked about with the assistant coaches, namely Bradshaw. That's the one everybody likes, is Bradshaw. But Rocky Thompson is part of that as well, as is Darrell Williams. It's always said that it's very hard for assistants to step up and become the head coach for the team that they were assistants on because the role changes so much. Especially with a head coach like Torts. He's a maniac screaming at everybody. And then the assistants have to come up and be the best friend and be like, okay, this is what he wants. He's not actually trying to make you cry. What he wants, and they get to be the good cop. And now suddenly they have to be the hard ass. They have to be the head coach in charge of everything. And the players just look at it and go, so were you lying to me then? Are you lying to me now? It's just a disingenuous thing, and it's just very hard to do. So I'm not sure who really works as the next guy after Torts. It depends on how long he's here. That's always, up for debate. How long is Torts going to last? But I think Mike Sullivan does make some sense in terms of realistic guys who could be available. And then I know it's probably not the Flyers thing because they want to be the old school Flyers, and the old school Flyers hire big name coaches. But I've just always wanted the next guy, not someone who won somewhere else. Scotty Bowman can win Stanley Cups in multiple places, but everyone else, it doesn't really ever happen. Like across sports, not just a hockey thing. Number of dudes who have won the championship with multiple teams is a very, very short list, but the Flyers have historically always gone with retread coaches. So my guess is it's someone whose name is the guy who will be John Tortorella's replacement, but I don't know who that will be. All right, a couple more here. These are back to Die Hard Discord guys, and if you want access to the Die Hard Discord, real easy to get. All you got to do, go to allphly.com right now and sign up to be a diehard. And for a limited time, new users, new diehards, can sign up for $48 for the entire year. That's $4 a month for all of our ad-free access to diehard level written content. That's our premium content from our superstar list, our superstar roster of writers. Right now, I'm looking outside this studio. I'm looking at Zach Berman. It's not just Charlie, man. Zach Berman, all of our awesome writers here at PHLY. You get access to all of their premium content. You get a free PHLY shirt of your choice. Hey, It's like a $35 value right there. You get 20% off all PHLY events and ALLCITY merch, and you get exclusive access to diehard-only Discord Lounge. So sign up right now, allphly.com. Become a diehard. All right, a couple more questions from diehards, and then we will wrap this thing up. From J Chamby 28. Longtime listener, new subscriber to PHLY. My brother and I are both newly subscribed. Even though we are both only 1 for 4s and not 4 for 4s and are out of town, always loved our out-of-towners. If Luchenko doesn't develop further this year and Drysdale doesn't take a step forward, should we begin to be concerned about Danny's talent evaluation for prospects and young talent? I think we would. I think there would be a very different level of optimism if Drysdale was replaced with Rossi and Luchenko was replaced with Bouillon, even though I like both of their potentials individually. Yeah, the Bouillon thing, that'll be until Jet Luchenko proves what he is and we see what Bouillon, like, that'll always be a question mark. Drafting is not an exact science. Who the hell knows how a draft is going to work out? I mean, look at 2017, for instance. I always just point to 2017, man. Drafting is weird. You know who was furious about 2017? Colorado. They were so bad and didn't win the lottery, and look how it worked out. They got the next Bob Ewing, Cale Makar. Stuff happens. Obviously, Bouillon was the name we all wanted. He was the guy who was there. We liked. He won the national championship. He's the dude. We didn't really know who Jet Luchenko was. He's got a cool name. He's fast. He's probably going to go in the late teens, early 20s. And then you get him at, 13. Like, really? Huh. Odd. And then Drysdale, we'll always wonder what if, but we'll never know what those deals were really going to be. GMs make talent evaluation mistakes. I don't like looking. Like, yes, if the 2 biggest acquisitions Danny has made don't turn out, then we should be concerned. But I'm not anywhere near there yet. Like, yes, if the worst case scenario turns out for 2 of the most important players in the lineup this year, we should have many, many concerns, not just about Danny, but about when the hell this is ever going to turn around. Who is going to be our next group of so many problems where, again, 5 games into this thing, I'm not ready to go, well, worst case scenarios are playing out. I am nowhere near there yet. I like what I've seen out of Jet. I think Drysdale's shown something. And honestly, the thing I want to see most out of Drysdale is the thing that he's allegedly best at. Like, we haven't really seen enough offense out of him. Maybe once Nick Sealer's here and he can help, create defensive plays so that he can orchestrate a breakout and get on offense, we'll start to see more of that offense out of Drysdale. But I'm nowhere near any of that yet. But I don't want to think about worst case scenarios right now. There's 78 games, 77 games left. Like, I can't do it. It's just too long of a season. All right, and our last one from a great name here, Bread. We have a question from Bread. Howdy, Bill. Got a question for you. There's been a lot said online about Travis Sanheim's play right now, and I don't think it's all unfounded, but I think the most important question is this. When this team is finally contending, is he and his monster contract still on this team? And my first thing is, monster contract isn't a great way to describe it. He signed for a while. Listen, it is a long-term deal, and I don't think they ever should have given him this contract. I can speak English. He has this year. He's in the second year of an 8-year contract. It runs through 2030-31. That's too long. But the cap hit of $6.25 million for a player who I think evens out as a good second pair defenseman. That's not going to be a monster number when the cap starts to go up. And that could happen as soon as this coming off season. When you hear the talk about, we're trying to get the CBA done early and we might even rip it up and the cap might start to go up more faster than we even thought because things are going pretty well for the league right now. $6.25 million. I mean, honestly, the biggest deal is he has this year and 2 more of a no trade. And then, years 5 to 8, a 12-team no-trade list. Like, he kind of controls his own destiny, and if he wants to be here, he's going to be here. I think he will be here. I don't think many guys with this kind of term on their contract really ever get traded unless you can trade them to like Winnipeg, because they want captives because there are no volunteers to go to Winnipeg. If they can get someone with term on their deal, they jump at the chance. But I just don't think the contract is going to be something that holds you back. I don't think it's that bad of a deal. The cap is going up, and it might start going up more rapidly than we expected, and he's fine. Travis Sanheim, I don't think he's off to the best start to the season, but overall, Travis Sanheim is a fine player. I've never been the biggest fan, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you he sucked or that I think he sucks. He's fine. Hopefully they get someone better to pair with him, like I mentioned earlier. Like maybe Drysdale can be that guy, and suddenly you have some speed, you have some good puck movers on both sides. Like that would be a cool pairing. It's not very physical, but it would be fun to watch. Maybe that's the thing if Drysdale is that sort of guy. But we'll see how that all works out. And we will see how the rest of this week works out with Saturday and Sunday back-to-back games for our Flyers this weekend. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Follow us right here on the YouTube page. Never miss a live show. Set that reminder bell. Follow us on Twitter. You can see our schedule pinned at the top of our profile every week so you know when those shows are, and you can interact with us. It's usually me tweeting. So if you're like, hey, I want to talk to Bill about his nonsense, hit me up at PHLY_Flyers, and follow the podcast as well wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for listening. It's been fun answering your questions, not just on Mailbag Monday, but into overtime as well. Always great hearing from our listeners. Love getting to do mailbag shows. Until I talk to you, pre- and post-game Saturday and Sunday, let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.